Millions across the globe suffer from sicknesses and health conditions that are treatable, but they die because they cannot afford the medicines that could save their lives. For example, millions in third world countries die because of the lack of insulin for their diabetes. The ability to pay for medication should not be a reason for which a patient dies. The ability to pay is simply irrelevant when it comes to treating patients. I work in the healthcare industry and I have seen firsthand how patients lower their dosages in order for the medication to last longer, or simply they just go without the medication and risk the chance of dying. I would argue that we should have a regulation policy to ensure that medications are not distributed with an enormous price tag. I will show you why medicines are needlessly overpriced and how price regulations could work, and also what benefits do lower prices have on patients. First, I will be explaining why medications across the United States are so expensive. As it stands, drug manufacturers launch their medications with a tremendous price tag and with little to no innovation whatsoever. In addition, the manufacturers account for the extreme price tags with their own studies and research, which they can often keep as confidential. According to an article written by the Centers for American Progress, it is evident that drug companies rule the market with no regulation, or with little regulation, which has given them a little too much power over the pharmaceutical market. The market for prescription medications in the United States is a very complex market. However, according to an article written by the Institute for Healthcare Policy and Innovation, most consumers think that medication is simply too expensive. Pharmaceutical companies increase prices as much as they see fit because they know that patients will buy the medication even if the price is too big. In the United States, the demand for prescription medication is 50% greater than in past years. According to the Institute for Healthcare Policy and Innovation, prices are just getting too big or too large for patients to be able to purchase the medication that they need to treat their chronic or occasional sicknesses or viruses that they encounter. Secondly, I'll be explaining the benefits of setting up a regulation for pharmaceutical companies. Pharmaceuticals in the United States are more expensive than in any other economically developed country, which affects primarily patients with chronic conditions. In addition, other economically developed countries have taken greater steps into regulating the pricing of pharmaceuticals. According to an article written by the Mayo Clinic, developed countries other than the United States see the patients as a priority other than what revenue the sales will bring, which benefits primarily the patients and not the CEOs of the pharmaceutical companies. According to an article written by the Institute for Healthcare Policy and Innovation, European Union countries use a process called external reference pricing, which rather than allowing drug companies to set pricing, they look at pricing from other countries and base the set price with the gathered results. The federal government is positioned to facilitate, fund, and organize the regulation policies on the multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical industry. In addition, an article written by Dr. Minal R. Patel stated that the United States government should establish and financially support a politically independent, impartial, expert advisory committee tasked with making recommendations on pharmaceutical policy. The regulatory goals are to ensure affordable access to life-preserving medications while promoting future innovation on the market. According to Dr. Minal R. Patel, 75% of Americans already favor the creation of an independent group with a specific focus on cost of prescription drugs. Finally, It is evident that the pharmaceutical system requires a more controlled system where medication prices are set at a reasonable scales compared with that other countries. The monitoring of prices will benefit the patients across the United States and ensure that they're able to afford the medications that are prescribed to them, especially to those with chronic illnesses. In addition, the regulatory laws should be able to ensure affordable medications for all. The monopolistic power that pharmaceutical companies possess requires the regulation of prices for medications, and the federal government has a responsibility to monitor and oversee companies that deal with the well being of patients across the United States. The companies that hold the fate of millions of patients' lives in the hands requires regulation and monitoring to ensure that we can all have the medications that we need to preserve life.